Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the epic blueprint of King Anawrahta. We are looking at a true visionary, someone who took a completely dry, fractured landscape and essentially engineered the mighty pagan empire from scratch. If you've ever wondered how a nation is built literally from the ground up, well, this is the story you need to hear. Today, we're exploring a leader who didn't just conquer territories, but engineered an entire society, from its agriculture right down to its architecture.
All right, let's dive right in. We're going to break his reign down step by step, starting with his rise to power, how he built his war machine, the conquest of Tracton, securing the borders, and finally, his lasting legacy.
Section 1. Rise to Power, Unifying a Fractured Land. To really get the magnitude of his achievement, you have to picture what he started with. Anawrahta inherited this harsh, desert-like city-state on the Irrawaddy River. It was completely surrounded by warring neighbors and independent highland chiefs, just a totally fragmented landscape. Yet, he systematically turned that dry dust into a unified powerhouse, filled with wealthy agricultural hubs and an incredibly rich culture. It is an absolute masterclass in state building.
But his rise to power? It began with some intense, deeply personal drama. Anawrahta didn't just, walk into power. His brothers, Sokate, actually forcibly took their own mother to be his queen. Outraged, Anawrahta fled to Mount Popa and gathered his forces in the shadows. He then sent a formal challenge to his brother, which all culminated in 1044. Picture this. They fought in single combat, on horseback, at Minyakaba. Anawrahta won, claiming the throne. So this wasn't just a royal succession. It was the dramatic first spark of an empire that would end up shaking Central Asia.
Section 2. The War Machine. Building the Economic Foundation.
What's really fascinating here is that Anawrahta knew you absolutely cannot conquer a continent if your army is starving. So before launching endless military campaigns, he kicked off an agricultural revolution. He went to the Kayakse Plains and dammed the Panlong and Samon rivers. This ingenious move turned the region into an abundant rice bowl across 11 distinct agricultural districts. And the takeaway here is simple. A massive surplus of food means your population rapidly expands, which allows your military to just explode in size. He literally built the economy to feed the war machine.
With that booming population, he started drafting soldiers using a highly organized village quota system. And to lead this newly forged, fiercely disciplined military, he appointed 4 legendary commanders known as the 4 Paladins: Kian Sitha, Nga Tue Yu, Nga Lon Letpe, and Yong U Hepi. These 4 guys would become the absolute tip of the spear for everything that followed.
Section 3. Conquest of Thatan and the Religious Shift.
Having the biggest military wasn't enough to build a lasting empire. Anawrahta needed a moral bedrock. At the time, the local religious figures were the Ari monks, and the sources describe them as deeply corrupt, relying on bribery and magical practices. But then, a Mara monk named Shin Arahan arrived, and he brought with him pure, disciplined Theravada Buddhism. Anawrahta immediately recognized this as the exact unifying force his empire needed, and he decided to make it the state religion.
But to officially make it the state religion, he needed the sacred texts, the Tripitaka. So he politely sent envoys to King Manuha of the Mon Kingdom of Thatan to request copies of these scriptures. But King Manuha arrogantly rejected the request, saying, and I quote, "The people of Pagan are heathens without doctrine." That insult was the ultimate inciting incident. It handed Anawrahta the absolute perfect justification for a holy war.
And war it was. The pagan army, led by the brilliant commanders Kian Sitha and Tiathura, descended right upon Thatan. They didn't just attack. They completely suffocated the city with a massive, relentless land and water blockade that dragged on for months. Finally, the formidable fortress of Thatan fell, and King Manuha himself was taken prisoner.
Take a look at this staggering number, 30. That represents the 30 massive white elephants Anawrahta used to haul 30 sets of sacred Tripitaka texts all the way back to Pagan. But actually, he didn't just take the books. He captured Thatan's brightest architects, artists, and craftsmen, bringing the whole shebang back to his capital. This incredible influx of knowledge and artistry completely, permanently transformed Pagan's culture.
Section 4. Securing the Borders. Conquering the Compass.
With the culture flourishing at home, Anawrahta turned his attention outward. To his east, Shan Plateau chiefs were constantly launching raids against his lands. So Anawrahta marched out, defeated them, and made them vassals. But he didn't just win a battle and leave, right? He simultaneously constructed exactly 43 defensive forts, places like Khao Sin and Khao Tan, right at the foot of the plateau. He built a literal wall of fortresses to ensure his eastern border would never be breached again. His strategy was just brilliantly multi-directional. Moving north toward the powerful Chinese kingdom of Nanzhao, he didn't even fight. He secured a diplomatic peace to acquire a sacred tooth relic, which extended his influence all the way up to the Chinese border. Looking west across the treacherous Arakan-Yoma Mountains, he sent Kansisa to conquer and unite that territory. And finally, down south, when the powerful Khmer Empire threatened his lower territories via Siam, he sent his 4 paladins sweeping down the Irrawaddy River, driving them completely out. He masterfully locked down every single border.
Section 5. Legacy. The State Builder.
What you really need to take away from this explainer is what Anawrahta did once the dust actually settled. Historians don't remember him merely as a warlord, but as a true state builder. He didn't just rule his conquered lands with an iron fist, he completely integrated them. He used that newly acquired Mon architecture to build some of the world's most breathtaking pagodas, elevating the region spiritually. And he instituted a unified rule of law across incredibly diverse territories, basically creating a functioning society out of former enemies.
But, as happens so often in history, things took a wildly unexpected turn. In 1077, his transformative reign was cut short. The king, who had survived legendary horseback duels and massive continent-spanning wars, was tragically killed by a wild elephant while out on a hunting expedition.
Yet, the true measure of an empire builder? It's what happens after they are gone. Because of those meticulous economic, religious, and military structures he engineered, the Pagan Empire didn't collapse without him. No, it thrived for over 250 years, laying the permanent bedrock for modern Myanmar's culture, literature, and faith. His systems were so deeply rooted that they outlived the conqueror who created them by centuries.
Which leaves us with this really fascinating final thought to ponder about history's great conquerors. Is a lasting empire truly built by the sword? Or is it built by the culture, the laws, and the plows left behind? Anawrahta wielded the sword to clear the land, for sure, but it was his temples and his laws that stood the test of time. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this helped piece together the incredible blueprint of one of history's great state builders.